Hello everyone, I'm Dominique Hamler, Executive Director of Los Angeles Outpatient Center. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and guess what? We're celebrating Pride Month. We want you to know that we have resources, and guess what, you guys? I have two of the GOATs, the best of the best, Adrena and Orlando. Hey! Would you guys mind introducing yourselves?
Absolutely. I'm Adrena Wilson. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm here at LAOP as clinical director, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi, I'm Orlando. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, primary therapist here at LAOP, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
We're going to chat about resources. We're going to talk about getting to know each other a little bit more. We're going to talk about exploring topics and different perspectives. You guys are going to learn so much. Your heads are going to explode. So get ready. So first, how about I just talk about LA Pride last weekend? Is that okay if I share?
Of course.
You guys, this occasion, this event is monumental, epic. And the reason I say that is because it is something that is near and dear to me, because I want to show face, I want to show support, I want to show advocacy and allyship, and I want to let people know that you are loved and you're accepted. That is my job as a human being and as an individual. And more importantly, our organization, Centered Health, Los Angeles Outpatient Center, was there representing the work that we do, representing our open door policy, our inclusivity, and our openness and our love that we have to give, and expertise. You know, I say love because that's important. We don't talk about that enough, you guys, but that's what humans need. That's what we all need. We want connection. We want love. What do you guys think about that?
100%. I think the queer community deserves the little bit of extra love and attention. And I'll say, as a queer identified individual myself, that Pride Month means a lot to me. It means that I get to see others whose experiences match my own. And here at LAOP, being an inclusive and affirmative place, we really value representation. And we will probably talk more about that.
Definitely. And what do you think, Orlando? What are your thoughts?
Of course, I think similarly, I think this month is very, very important, as well as a gay man as well. Just kind of having this month to really focus on the struggles and even just the progressiveness of how mental health can help our community.
And when you say community, Orlando, that resonates so hard, because when I think community, I think the inner workings and connection of people working together, people showing support for one another. I see this non-judgmental environment charged with what we talked about, inclusivity, resourcefulness, because you have what I need, I have what you need, and that's just the inner workings of the human experience and how we survive.
And on the other end of that, I think we also have to think about how people are excluded and how we do help those people fit in. At the end of the day, I think the queer community is definitely a specific community that's ostracized and that is put at a level of being less than. Yeah. And again, if our need is to be connected and on the opposite end, we're being told we're less than, it's very conflicting. Then how are we gonna feel safe to be ourselves? How are we gonna feel safe to get support when we need it? How are we going to feel safe to feel connected?
Yes.
That's really what we do here at LAOP.
That's exactly what we do.
Connection. I think it's important, I think, even just as a therapist and coming from, my perspective as a gay man too, I think it's kind of important to self-disclose sometimes, especially, because a lot of, clients I've had, especially youth and adults, they come guarded already. Yeah. Because already, like, sometimes, they kind of already think, oh, I've been in these systems, or again, kind of just, hit on the nail there. There's a lot of unfairness we see, even within our states, California here, I think we're very progressive, but, you go to Florida, and again, there's a lot of laws that still don't support us, support the community as well, so. Yeah. So it's very important, I think, just to kind of have this connection with the client, especially those coming from our community as well. They're already kind of coming, again, with just a lot of baggage too, just a journey. It's a very hard journey sometimes. Yeah. And very unique journey, sorry. Very unique as well.
It's so very true. And when you said journey, it prompted my thinking to just my childhood growing up in the South, where, social norms are just kind of shoved down your throat. And when I say social norms, it's just whatever staunch beliefs that are passed down, these traditions that just pretty much deny you being your authentic self,
Right.
which when we talk about from the mental health space, you not having the ability to be who you are authentically, I feel like that's the most tragic thing that I could ever think with somebody going through, that they're not allowed to be who they are. You're not allowed to express who you are. I think that's prison.
It is, and I think what you're speaking to too is like one thing that we have to consider is not just being a queer individual that comes in that's a part of the community. It's what culture were they raised in? What messages did they hear from social media, from their parents, from their church, from just their school? We have to really think contextually in a larger picture what being queer for that person means. And I think when we say affirmative therapy, what we mean is meeting the client where they're at and understanding them in a larger picture. So if this client is coming from a very religious background that does not think well of the queer community, we have to think contextually how to support that person and destigmatize and talk about that homophobia or the transphobia that they've been experiencing all of their life up to this point. And in addition to that, and I think you were speaking to the culture as well, what happens to queer individuals is we become over-pathologized.
Yes.
So then we're giving these diagnoses that don't actually mean anything. The DSM's not particularly friendly to begin with towards queer individuals. You get all these diagnoses that just make assumptions that because you do not identify with your gender assigned at birth, that you are then inherently bad and there's something that needs to be fixed about you. That's something that we really work on here, is making sure that we're not over-pathologizing somebody for reacting to a way that they've been mistreated by society as a whole. So just to clarify pathologizing, because I know it sounds like a big word and sometimes we take it for granted, it essentially means that we are giving somebody a diagnosis when they don't need one. We are identifying somebody that has a problem that doesn't actually have a problem.
Just jump in a little bit too, kind of, what Gina's saying is really, really true. Not only being from the community, it gives us already kind of access that, we know everything about our community. I think even just as competent therapists, I think we need to go do research for ourselves and understand even where our clients are coming from. I actually had a lot of transgender clients, and I actually had to learn a lot of the terminologies, on T, what does that mean? Again, like the processes for the individuals as well. Like, I said, what are they too? Like, a lot of their gender dysphoria, even like how do they feel in their bodies, so it's all of that, which I think it comes just with also being a competent therapist as well.
100%, and I so appreciate you guys because you're educated and then you have tasked yourselves with educating yourselves, because you say, oh, I got this, I'm in the community, that's just a huge misconception, right? 100%. And then from my role as an ally and advocate, I need to do the research, I need to learn what is appropriate, what is friendly, what is, not going to be offensive, and be curious and ask the questions so that I do get the right information and I don't assume, because we all know what happens when we assume. Wink, wink. So we want to make sure that we are on pace and on track with what's happening. This is current, this is trending, and this is very much necessary. When I'm out in the field, and I've shared this with you all, when I'm out in the field, people are challenging me. What do you mean you provide affirmative therapy? What does that exactly mean? So I push to the task as executive director to make sure that our team, that we're on point, so that when people come through the door, they know what we mean when we say we're inclusive, we're affirmative, we are here to support you. We want that to be visible, we want representation, we want that to be tangible, that they feel like they're accepted and they have that understanding that we accept them and we're meeting them where they are. I think that's very important, for the atmosphere and what we provide here.
Absolutely. And like Orlando, you were saying before, is sometimes the clients come in already kind of having had these really terrible experiences where they've been ostracized or pathologized more. And so one big way that we start affirmative therapy from the moment we get here is not assuming sexuality or gender. It's asking and asking what it means for them. Being queer to me means something completely different than somebody else who maybe uses that same label, which may be then different than somebody who labels as, like, say, bisexual. We don't want to make assumptions. Okay, you're bisexual. This means this, this, and this. There's so many intersectionalities there that matter. But pronouns and using gender neutral adjectives is huge. We really try to do that here to make sure that everyone feels heard and seen, and listening more than we respond. I think that's what we learn. We learn a lot in the helping industry, right? If we're listening to respond, we're not really listening. We're not really listening.
100%. Yeah, to jump in again, as Gina's bringing us really, really important too. I think even within our, group therapies that we have with, we have a mix of clients, different mix of sexual orientations as well, gender orientations as well. So it's like, I think a lot of our LGBTQ clients really teach our, hetero normative clients, that, the terminologies, the pronouns, because again, they may not be presenting, right? Someone who's like trans may not present the gender they would like at the moment, and people may be confused. Oh, why are they with pronouns she and her? They present male, right? But I think again, it just comes with respect, and I think a lot of our clients here really respect each other too, because that's as therapists, and I think even just collectively, from the top down, we're all I think on the same page where we all want our clients to feel all, it doesn't matter sexual orientation, gender presentation, we want them to feel really comfortable here and understood and heard.
Absolutely. I thank you for saying that, Orlando, because what comes to mind too is I'm going to speak to some of the work that you guys do too, because I see it with you're doing your process groups, and things are coming up, because what we've identified is that this is kind of like practice for when you leave and how you interact with one another. So if there's some type of stigma or some type of homophobic language that comes out, I know that you guys are doing your due diligence to redirect and re-educate and just show force that, when I say show force, I'm meaning that you're going to do a hard redirect and letting them know what this is inappropriate, this is hurtful, because we're going to just say it. Some people growing up the way you grow up and what you learn, you might not understand the impact and how you affect one another in your speech, in your language, and how the things that you're saying. Maybe you heard homophobic, language all your life, so you don't know anything different. Right. So that's where we come in as clinicians and educators too, to just let them know as well.
Absolutely, and I'll say it probably multiple times, affirmative therapy is not meant for just queer individuals. We really want to break down that stigma and teach and coach and facilitate empathy for peers, and we see that. I think it's really beautiful in groups when we get a client who's maybe older, cisgender, heteronormative lifestyle that's like, I didn't realize that what I was saying was offensive until right now in this moment. And that's a huge part of the work that we're facilitating and guiding people through taking out these social constructs that have been built for so long and so deeply ingrained. Some people truly just don't know wrong.
That's right. It's just, depending on how you grew up and what you were exposed to, And
I think there's a little curiosity now, I think, with our clients too. And even, we kind of teach them that, we kind of model that, ask questions first. And again, you mentioned earlier on, Dominique, don't assume. You can't assume, we teach that really, with our clients too. You can't assume things.
That's it. So one stance that I do take, you guys, and I'm going to say this out loud, is I have zero tolerance for discrimination, hateful language, homophobic rants. I do not subscribe to it personally, and in the professional environment, we have to do our due diligence and making sure that we are protective, of everyone. And we talked about respect and dignity. Those are two of our core values that we have here. We want to show respect for all and dignity for all. And as a human, you deserve that. Absolutely. You deserve that. That's your right, and to be treated as such. So at LEOP, the environment is structured that way. I just want to let you guys know that.
So another thing I wanted to bring up is, I think people, when they don't understand full identities or understand how somebody can identify with a different gender than assigned at birth, we mix up pronouns a lot. That happens a lot, right? But we're human and we make mistakes, but the big thing that we really harness in this environment is making mistakes but correcting it. It is not our client's job to educate us about queer rights, about queer biases out there of people who discriminate against them.
Right.
It's our responsibility to read literature, keep up with it, and let the client be the expert, and respecting the languages that they use to describe themselves.
Definitely.
And not over pathologizing that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
100%.
I mean, because if you, again, I have to go back to that authenticity, you guys. That is just something ingrained in our DNA. And if you're not allowed just to be who you are, who you want to be, safely, you know what I mean? We're not talking about anything that's going to harm yourself or harm others. We're talking about in a safe space, and you guys are equipping our clients with tools to, to operate accordingly.
Absolutely.
But that authentic way of life is just something that I really value and I really treasure. And I'm grateful that we have that opportunity to impart that to our clients and letting them know, no, it's okay. What you're doing is okay, and you're safe here,
Right.
Yeah.
Safety. That's a big one too, right? I think particularly for transgender identified individuals, this is a huge issue right now. I mean, just think about it. Going into a bathroom where maybe you're perceived as an opposite gender and how contentious that can feel, and even things like having our gender affirming bathrooms, that means everything to someone who has experienced a trauma related to just using the bathroom in public. Happens all the time here in Southern California, every day. That's not something you can hide, and this is a language we use in the community is passing. Are you passing as the gender in which you identify for, right? Like that leaves out a whole slew of people who maybe don't identify with either gender, who don't use gendered pronouns. They use they, them, gender neutral language about themselves. We have to make it safe for everybody. And if it means having that bathroom, great. If it means using the right pronoun or asking what their pronouns are, beautiful, because the world is not as forgiving. The world is not as forgiving out there.
100%. Yeah, and I think also bring a great point, Adriana, with like also code switching. Sometimes we do that a lot in the community, where, we can't be ourselves because we're perceived as, too feminine, or and it just depends, where we live too, our culture, our backgrounds, even our workplaces sometimes, do we feel safe even as, even as therapists too, so I think at LEOP we do that, affirmative therapy, affirmative just genders and sexuality, everything. I think is very important because I think gives us more liberation as therapists to actually feel free too, and really even transcend that to our clients as well. So it kind of starts there too. Yeah. Do we feel safe as well? Yeah.
That's my job, guys.
Yeah.
To make sure the whole environment is constructed appropriately, and I'm here for it. So I just want to let you know that at LEOP, the other thing as an ally and an advocate is, when I talked about the no tolerance, what I am also tasked with is just making sure that this environment is not riddled with oppression and judgment. So I'm just going to say that again. It's bad enough that we all have to deal with what's really plaguing our communities, with the anxiety and depression that we see with a lot of our clients, and then add on the extra stress of trying to just do something simple as go to the bathroom, and you might be harassed and bullied in the bathroom. And so imagine what that does to you and your stress levels, because you're anxious, you're stressed, and this is just something in everyday life that you are, just trying to experience.
Right. So
that safety we talked about, and we're talking about destigmatizing the environment, and then just having an oppression-free environment. So we want you to be able to come to LLP, get your therapy, connect with your therapist, connect with the staff in a safe environment where you can function and you can feel confident. It can build your confidence and your self-esteem. What is that going to do for you when you talk about your mental health, right? It's going to elevate it,
Absolutely. So, we did mention safety in the clinic, and I think the other part that we really have to consider is safety in general when somebody is out in the world, what environment they grew up in. One big thing that is such a big issue, we get a lot of clients in who struggle with their careers because they can't safely come out, or they're outed in a really traumatic way. and they truly don't feel safe in this environment. Just getting some homophobic, transphobic, hetero and cis language that discriminates against them, that's used all the time. And then we have to add in the other layer of housing. Queer LGBTQIA individuals struggle with finding housing and being discriminated against for identifying as such. And so when we're thinking about them systemically being oppressed in almost every major area of your life, adding in family, right? The people who we were raised by, the cultures in which we were raised in, the religions that brought us up also come into play. A lot of our clients come to the clinic and they haven't come out to their family, or they've come out and they've been ostracized. And I'm saying this all from a lens of understanding as a queer individual and having been through a lot of the systemic oppressions of not being cis hetero identified. I have a passion for wanting to support people who have not by any areas of their life. And although LA as a whole, we're incredibly lucky. I'm incredibly privileged both to be white and here in Southern California, liberal. But I know not everybody has that, and not everybody has found their sense of community, which we talked about before. Community's huge for the.
Yeah, I think it comes also, again, upbringings, right, with their families, were they even able to be themselves, or again, are they held it on for so long until their adulthood, and then now here they're coming and really, telling us their story, telling us their struggles, telling us how they've been impacted, by their families too, and holding that space for them, because that's very, very important. You understanding where they're coming from. And again, it's just kind of knowing where the client is and really understanding their story too. From especially their perspective and sexual orientation, because again, also as we know, it's a spectrum too. So who knows, maybe they didn't identify as, gay, trans, bi, but of course, through time, those things also shift as well. So it's very, that's why, everyone's story here, so as clients that we have here, it's very unique to them, and it's very impactful too when we start kind of like diving in and kind of really helping them really heal their traumas, especially, with their culture, especially, cultural norms, exactly like, religion, or just even in their families, the roles and the traditional roles, especially, especially coming from actually a Mexican household, very traditional roles, and sometimes it's hard. It's hard to come out, and then you kind of are really seeking the perfect time. And it's never the perfect time, I think, sometimes, to even come out to your family.
Exactly, yeah. How do you predict that? Because you don't know how they're going to respond, all I can say, y'all, thank God for nursing school, because my parents wasn't giving me no information, okay? They were like, you don't need to know. I'm like, what do you mean I don't need to know about my sexuality and what's happening to my body? Are you kidding me? So thank you, nursing school, for just enlightening me on the whole experience and understanding like who I am sexually, because I didn't get that growing up. It was kind of one of those things where you're not to acknowledge how you feel, you're not to respond to those feelings, and so that was very stifling, I have to say. I can only imagine on a greater scale, when you're trying, again, this word authentic, you're trying to be you, and you're trying to resourcefully understand what's happening. I mean, you got puberty, you got hormones, and then you have that, okay, what I'm feeling is not what everybody else is feeling. So yeah, it's a lot, guys. So I'm very grateful that I do live in California, and I do have the freedom and the liberty to really advocate and express myself. But when I go back home to Louisiana, trust and believe, I am representing, okay? I love your family, but yeah, I have to do a lot of education. I have to do a lot of educating. I've even had family members here come and visit me in California, and I have to have the talk, let's talk. So I have gay and lesbian friends, and I need to let you know that you are not going to make them feel uncomfortable. So I give them very clear instructions. This is what you're going to do. So I'm educating them on how I expect them to treat my friends and how I expect them to show the love of Christ. That's how I grew up as a Christian. So I use the tools and I use what they taught me to really show them what I expect of them when they're interacting with people that are in the community and that are near and dear to me, because I don't want them feeling uncomfortable.
And that's allyship. I think that that's a beautiful representation of what the queer community needs, is people who are willing to stand up and say, hey, that's not cool. Because unfortunately, there's no rule book on how to treat people. There's no gay book out there to say, oh yes, when they respond this is how you respond, right? We're human. There's so many human aspects to this. We're adding in transgenerational trauma. We're adding in traumas that are unrelated to sexuality and gender identity. And on top of depression, anxiety, any other mental health issue they're struggling with, we really have to be sensitive and aware. Which also brings me to another, a good thing to represent is, kind of growing up queer and getting to this point in my life where I'm in a professional setting as a queer individual. I see the youth coming in, the 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and my gosh, they're so open-minded. They're so much more open-minded. But I have to stay open-minded even as a queer individual, because there's other language that they use to describe themselves that I have to know about, educate myself on, and respect.
That's right.
Even if I don't know certain languages that they bring up, sometimes I'm like, oh, that label wasn't there when I was a kid. Doesn't matter, it's there now. So now I have to learn to respect that and integrate that into the therapeutic space and allow the space for this beautiful change that is happening with our generations that are becoming more open-minded and being beautiful allies at that, and being able to represent the queer community.
100%. Yeah, and also the positive end of the spectrum with families too. It's really, I think, healing for even myself as a therapist, seeing when families really embrace, our clients who, are treated trans, gay, bi, lesbian, especially trans. I think I love when families, don't use their dead name anymore. They actually use the chosen name. As we know, so dead name really is the name that's given at birth. And so of course now in the trans community, they have their chosen name. This is what they want to be identified as.
Yeah, that's very important, because that's the respect again. That's me showing you that I support you. And again, if this is the family, this is the origin of you, and if I'm showing you that I support you, I'm going to go back to that mental health perspective. What is that going to do to enhance your healthiness and your self-worth, and for some reason as humans, sometimes, and I'll be honest, I found myself in a position where maybe I don't feel worthy, right? And I don't feel like I have the self-worth that I need. So just that family support and that communal support, once again, is what's going to uplift and undergird me so that I do know, I am worth it.
Absolutely.
That's important to know, right?
And on the other side of what you guys are saying is, like, we also get the cases where it's not successful and they're not able to still be accepted by their families. And then we're helping harness what we call in the community found families or identified families. Families does not mean blood, and we have to help find ways to navigate a sense of community, because it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. Sense of community is huge. And so we do have the cases where we attempted to reconnect families and they can't overcome it, or it's too toxic for the person to sit in. It's too damaging, an additional layer to their mental health journey, and see both ends of both the beautiful part and kind of the evil part of humanity and how people are treated just as a result of how they identify, what they look like, how they represent their gender.
Absolutely. And I imagine that would be traumatic if you had a client, Orlando, that was on the other end of the spectrum, like we're talking about, that, you just kind of got the realization and the understanding that, okay, this is not going to happen. They're not going to accept me for who I am. And so then our job kind of shifts a little bit, right, on trying to help them affirm themselves.
Exactly. It's really, again, building a sense of community, building that family that they kind of will lean on. That's how, we ingrain this in all of our clients too, transcending from LGBTQIA, clients. Even, it's like, I think all of our clients, really, it's kind of really, they need a support, system and support circle as well. People to lean on, because again, I think we all need someone to really lean on and help as well. Which I think a lot of our clients also struggle with, I think, is asking for the help, especially those who are part of the community, you know, they're gonna be less vocal about things because again, they feel like they can't speak up. You know, they feel like they've been, silenced. You know, it's again just in the greater scheme of society as well.
Absolutely. It's just like our campaign that we had for last month for mental health awareness, you know, it's okay not to be okay, you know, and then putting that awareness out that, okay, you know, things are just not going so well, but it's okay. You know, we do have, you know, there's a way out, you know, or there's a way to help support yourself so you can, you know, get that momentum going and get that motivation going so you can live your best life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I think a lot of the clients that come in, we hear horror stories about therapeutic experiences, and we that sometimes that's a big need of the work is teaching them that not everybody is bad, that they can access care without being discriminated against, without being called names or being told there's something inherently wrong with you, which unfortunately we hear pretty often. And the other thing too is, you know, we get a lot of clients who are still in the coming out phase of where they are in life and figuring out what that is, and being able to harness that safety for them to explore what that means for them and to explore what that looks like with family. I think one of the biggest barriers of coming out is what we call being outed by somebody when you're not ready emotionally or even physically in terms of safety to come out. And that's something we're very conscious of, right? Because we're humans, we make assumptions, and you know, everybody in the queer community alone already makes assumptions about each other, like, oh, he's gay, he's definitely gay. But we can't, right? We have to check ourselves and not say those things out loud because we have to allow them space to either A, confirm or deny that, and B, just not make the assumption to begin with, to be there. I've had that happen to me. I mean, when I was younger, I've always, really presented as more feminine, and talking about sexuality being fluid. I came out as bisexual and then lesbian and then back to bisexual because it was so confusing. Men would tell me, well, you don't look gay. I'm sorry. Did I not write it on my face this morning? My apologies.
You forgot to write it.
But that happens. We get put into this, like a lesbian has to look a certain way, a gay man has to look a certain way, a trans woman has to look a certain way, and I think that's a big part of what we're doing in the community now is even getting away from just the LGBT, right? Like we're bringing in spectrums of where people are, and we have to respect and own wherever somebody is on the spectrum. And having been somebody that's gone through that, I can understand the pain and the confusion that can come from that, and where to sit with that on the day-to-day is who do you talk to about that?
Oh yeah, and I can relate a lot with you, Adrina. You know, growing up in high school, you know, people, I used to wear tight pants, right? Certain way you look, people were like, are you gay? And at that time I was actually questioning a lot. So I was like, no, I'm not gay. You know, but my home was like, ooh, how do they know? How do you know, I'm like, how do, you know, so, but then yeah, I think it took a lot of just self-reflection, I think. And again, that's what I think our clients do too. Like they're probably reflecting too, and they're probably still questioning too. Because you know, it's not, again, it's a spectrum. So it's not, you know, you don't really know until you know you really do know, and what feels right to you. Exactly. You know, not put yourself in a mold or like, you know,
Right, and I think that's just the beauty of humanity, that we can all be different. It would be so boring if we're all the same, we're all operating the same, all doing the same thing. That is just so boring. No, thank you. I love the fact that, we can express ourselves, and the words you guys use, the spectrum. When I see spectrum, I think creativity, right? Because those differences and the diversity is what makes us so complex and really just makes us so relatable to one another at the same time. Really? So I'm really a fan of just people expressing themselves. Yes, be you. And I'm gonna go back to the Pride Parade. I mean, that was just one of my favorites, just to see how people are just expressing themselves on this wonderful occasion, and people are going all out with the colors and the beautiful ornate clothing, and then just the way we're waving and dancing, and it's just such a connection that you feel with people that you don't even know, you know what I mean, which is amazing in itself as well, that I'm making eye contact with people that I don't even know, and we're showing love and respect from one another mutually, just in our expressions and just in me acknowledging, I see you looking all colorful and all bold and beautiful, that's exciting for me,
Absolutely. Pride has been a huge part of my life, and being able to go out and be safe and be with other members of the community. And if you see a therapist running by in a rainbow tutu, I promise it's not me. JK, it's me. I'll own it. Creativity comes out, the fun comes out, the connection starts, and we see that happen in the groups too, and see their creativity flow and their ability to be comfortable and confident in themselves. And just because somebody's queer identified does not mean there's something wrong with them. Therefore, people coming in that are queer identified doesn't mean that they came in because they're queer identified. They came in because they got depression.
Exactly.
They got depression.
Human problems, okay?
Right.
The same problems we all have.
Right. It's not always the reason for referral. Oh, they're queer. Gonna write that down now. All right. Go in the queer group now.
Yeah. No, this is the human condition where we're all struggling. We're all trying to not mask or not be something that we're not, or not live in this imposter syndrome lifestyle where I'm like, showing you one thing and then showing you another. That's just a miserable existence, you guys. I don't want to do it, and I don't want it for anybody. I want everybody to really be comfortable in their own skin. That's just how.
Yeah, and I think just kind of bringing in too, us kind of feeling as a safe space too for our clients. That's very big.
Yeah.
So it's part of the affirmative as well. Kind of again, is this a safe space for our clients?
Right.
And hopefully, just doesn't have to be like this. Always this big, grandiose, kind of concept.
Right.
Hopefully it can be more normalized as
Right.
well. Every space should be also, accepting of the community as well.
Definitely.
Hopefully we'll get there.
We are.
Someday.
We're on our way.
Yes.
But until then, we're loud and we're proud, okay? Letting everybody know.
We sure are. We're gonna.
Yeah.
That's right.
That is right.
So now, everyone, we're going to talk about resources. As an ally, one thing that I like to lean on is SAMHSA. I love this organization. They are so gender affirming. They talk about affirmative care. They talk about just anything you need to know as far as allyship and just the nature of acronyms, the nature of expression, and what to say, what not to say, how to say. So it's really more from an educational lens and instructional lens of the need to know basis, frequently asked questions. So that's one of my resources. Also, National Institute of Health, I think that's what it's called, NIH. I'm just going to say NIH. NIH. They have all of the statistical data, all of the studies and the research that shows us this is why we need to be doing what we're doing, because we have to provide the appropriate care, for our appropriate audience. So those are some of the great resources that I use.
Absolutely, and to be even more specific, when someone is truly in a crisis that's related to their gender or sexuality, there's the Trans Lifeline, that's specifically to help support 24/7. They have text features now. Some of the other resources, honestly, Google.
Yay.
Gender affirming care.
Yes.
Googling
Yes.
crisis hotlines, having those ready to go for clients that could potentially be in a crisis. There's youth-specific programs out there. Trevor Project is a big one. They work with a lot of different kinds of gender-affirming care and working in destigmatizing.
Yeah.
But also now, our health insurance in terms of gender-affirming care is becoming more prominent here in LA.
Yeah.
So really looking at gender-affirming care, we'll bring up a list of doctors, a list of psychiatrists, a list of anybody that they might need to kind of follow through with anything that might be affirming. And one other thing that I always go to is making sure that I give out LGBT written resourced material, so that I'm recommending books, I'm recommending articles that are written and represented by queer individuals, for queer individuals. Is a huge part of the representation, resourcing somebody.
100%. Yeah. Thanks, Adriana. I would kind of piggyback on that. Even just Googling 211, going there, resources, go on resources, LGBTQIA. The cool part is all in there. There's legal services for our community. There's mental health, of course, resources, gender affirming resources. So even word as help for help, housing, so crisis centers, all these things. So it's really nice. So yeah, Google's our friend.
Love it that we have the resources. At least that shows that we are progressive, and we can always do better, but at least we're moving in the right right direction, like we talked about earlier.
You know, one thing that we also talk about is the sense of community and where queer people gather. And one big part is the gay bars, the gay clubs, and what happens there. Not only dancing, right? Dancing does certainly happen. But the prevalence is really high for addiction and substance use. And I think that general numbing effect from substance use really helps people cope with all of the barriers that they have with life. So when I'm working with an individual who does struggle with that, I also make sure to really well resource them and link them to addiction services that work primarily within the queer community, because it's such a niche community to work with, and we'll cite some of those resources as well for that.
Absolutely. I think SAMHSA is another good resource for that, because they speak on the addiction piece, and it's just like self-medicating, right? Because who wants to feel pain? You know what I mean? It's like not the ideal sensation that people are seeking out, but it's very painful when you're not accepted, when you're not understood, you know, so it's understandable.
Yeah, you know, and again, the clients we see here, you know, they hold very intense emotions, you know, so they want a quick fix. They want that Band-Aid. They want to use alcohol. They want to use the substances, you know, so it's really teaching them too that this is not their first go-to, you know, talking about the trauma, talking about the experiences, talking about, you know, their struggles, you know, that's the important part. 100%. It transcends, you know, past our LGBTQIA community clients, you know, transcends all our clients here.
It does, and there's that relatability again, right? We all have the same struggles, you guys. We all have the same problems. They may look different, and they may be contained in different bodies and different ways of expressing ourselves, but guys, there's nothing new under the sun, you know. So on that note, I want to thank you guys for just joining us, and this was so wonderful. And our audience today, we want to thank you for joining us and celebrating Pride. Happy Pride, everybody. Happy Pride. Yes, come on, say it loud. So you're all incredible. I want you to take these resources. I want you to take all of these golden nuggets that my team here dropped with you guys. I'm telling you, it's like a free therapy session. You guys getting so much information. Special thanks to Adrena and Orlando. And their expertise, of course, and their leadership, and then just, you know, paving the way for mental health and mental awareness, because mental health is health. You know, that's how we stay healthy. Keeping your minds sharp, keeping your minds just fully equipped with new information and how to cope and how to live, you guys. We want you thriving. We want you not just surviving, we want you thriving and living your best life, okay? So, as always, if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, let us know. Okay, like and subscribe. And you can learn about all the services that are featured here at Los Angeles Outpatient Center. Check us out at leopcenter.com. Our website is amazing, okay? I looked at it myself. And, you know, check out this podcast. Share it, spread it around. We're here for you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yeah.